The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this REMI webinar, ChatGPT for Economic Analysis. The presenter for this webinar is Frederick Chase, the CEO and Chief Economist at REMI. He's being joined by Jeff Dykes, an analyst at REMI, and Chris Judson, a manager at REMI, who will assist with answering questions at the end of the webinar. I'm Brian Reel, Marketing and Event Coordinator at REMI, and I'll be the host of this webinar. The REMI model is the premier software solution for modeling the economic and demographic effects of policy changes. Decision makers and analysts rely on the REMI model to validate their economic impact studies in areas such as energy and utilities, economic development, transportation, and taxation. At any time during this webinar, you can ask a question in the question box, and time permitting, I'll moderate these questions to Fred, Chris, and Jeff. If we do not get to your question, I encourage you to reach out to info@remi.com, and we'll help you in any way we can. Shortly after this webinar concludes, a copy of the slides and a recording from this webinar will be shared to your email. If you have any questions after reviewing these materials, I again encourage you to reach out to info@remi.com. Thank you all for joining us, and take it away, Fred.
Okay, thank you so much, Brian. And thanks, Chris and Jeff, and also to Amelia Arthur for research assistance in this presentation. So ChatGPT has sort of taken the country by storm. It's one of the fastest uptakes in any new technology, including the internet, the internal combustion engine, and others that have come across. And the big question people are asking is, AI going to be your friendly, helpful robot like R2-D2 and C3PO, who are there to answer questions that you have and to make your lives easier and more productive? Or is it going to end up like the Terminator robot, which is out to get you? And I think in our work, we've jumped onto this and had a lot of fun looking at the capabilities. It's a little bit of both, and I'd say AI may be your new best frenemy, where it can help you out, answer a lot of questions, but it can also misinform and lead you down the primrose path. So we're just having fun with this. I typed into ChatGPT the term frenemy and got this very interesting definition out there of what that term means. And I think the key point to emphasize in using AI is to think. It can produce a lot of information, a lot of output. It can edit your writing, but then you have to go back and make sure that you're using judgment, thought, and that you're very actively engaged in terms of using AI. Now, again, we're having fun with this. I logged into ChatGPT. What does REMI say? Which was our tagline down there, and it actually did a pretty good job. REMI stands for Regional Economic Models, Inc. It's an economic modeling and forecasting company. They incorporate a wide range of economic variables to simulate how changes in policy, taxation, investment, and other factors can affect economic growth, employment, wages, and other economic indicators. These models are used in the field of economic development, public policy analysis, transportation planning, energy policy, and more. And of course, it had to put down at the end that it's important to note that REMI itself does not express any opinions or say anything. But it is what comes out of the model. We feel can do a lot to inform public policy, and we want to see how ChatGPT can help in sort of the whole policy analysis process. And GPT is an AI tool, and we see 4 applications where right out of the box, it can help in terms of economic modeling and analysis, helping to write and edit, to brainstorm about a topic area, conduct research, integrate Excel and other tools. They do not replace economic modeling, at least not as of yet, and it does not replace economic expert judgment. So we see 4 different ways that ChatGPT or AI can enhance economic analysis. One is, we'll have examples of each of these. One is to write up an economic forecast or simulation. So you can take a write-up or take economic data. It can write a very cohesive paragraph, well written, that expedites the ability to summarize a forecast or simulation results. Secondly, if you're using the REMI model, one of the REMI models, PI Plus or Transite, or another one, is a very important exercise to start out with when you're evaluating a policy, is to think, what are the possible economic implications of this policy? And I'm calling this brainstorming, to be able to list potential regional macroeconomic effects of a policy decision, and then you can go down the list to see, okay, do we have data to support this? Is this something we want to incorporate into the analysis? So it's really helpful for that initial brainstorming session. There's also research assistance, and I think sometimes you feel it can go sort of a step beyond a conventional search engine in digging up data and information that might otherwise be difficult to find. And then there's also integration in with Google Sheets, and there's more integration tools out there with Excel and other things, and that can leverage ChatGPT seamlessly. And I'll show some examples of that. And Jeff Dykes was really helpful to figure out that technology, and he can help answer further questions on this. So the first capability is a write-up. So using the output of REMI or the baseline forecast, there can be a write-up on economic forecast or simulation results. Now again, you have to use judgment. You have to check, and but I can show how this works. This is from the National REMI baseline forecast from 2023 to 2032. We just go right into the REMI model. This is the national forecast. You could also do it for regional forecasts. And then you highlight the areas, including the concepts, the years, and the data. Then you'll plug this into ChatGPT, where you include the variables. You just cut and paste that entire table into the platform. It can generate this set of outputs, and then regenerating the response. It lists the key findings from the REMI National Macroeconomic Forecast. And this was employment stable over the next decade from 2.8 million jobs to 211 in 2032. GDP, private non-farm employment, output, personal income, disposable personal income, and then it has a summary that the National Macroeconomic Forecast suggests a stable employment outlook, steady population growth, and steady economic growth across key indicators over the next decade. So this would show a write-up of the national forecast. Now, suppose your model consists of 30 different counties or 30 different regions in a state, and you want to be able to communicate to the stakeholders in each of these counties key information about their economic projection. This kind of capability enables a user to be able to generate a lot of these reports fairly quickly to be able to inform the stakeholders. I'll say a caveat that goes along with this. I'll say, I pulled the numbers out of the forecast, ran it through. It did a very nice write-up. And then yesterday afternoon, and it looked good. We eyeballed it. It looked like everything lined up, what the population was, how it was going to go into the future. So we eyeballed it. It looked pretty good. And yesterday afternoon, we just said, okay, for due diligence, we really need to go in and make sure that all the variables line up correctly. And it was wrong. So, Chris redid this scenario using a smaller set of data over a more limited number of years. And what ChatGPT produced is in fact accurate. So the caveat here is it can produce something that looks good, but it's very important to go back to check and verify that the numbers line up to what's actually in the forecast. Okay, so the second capability we want to take a look at is brainstorming. Let's say you start a new policy, you want to look at investment in renewables, or a new highway widening, or some new program for workforce training. Any kind of policy you might look at, a starting point might be to consider what are the potential macroeconomic effects of this policy? How might it interact with a state or local economy? And then to list those out and as different potential effects of the policy that you want to consider. So in this case, we looked at the potential regional macroeconomic impacts of the minimum wage. We just typed it into ChatGPT, and it came up with a whole list. I've sort of written these out in a new slide to make it easier to read, and it shows labor market effects, income distribution, inflationary pressures, poverty reduction, regional competitiveness, business profitability. So these are all types of factors that one might look at. So labor market effects would be, for example, higher labor costs for businesses, which can result in reduced employment, as businesses may cut back on hiring or even lay off workers to manage costs. Let's go down to number 5, regional competitiveness effects. As prices become higher in one region compared to another one. So all of these factors are a really good starting point for conducting analysis. ChatGPT gives different responses, even when you ask the same question. On an earlier response we had, there was an effect on government spending due to higher minimum wage may mean that there's less need for government to provide subsidies for affordable housing or food assistance. It actually said it may increase government spending, but a higher minimum wage would actually reduce spending in that area. So the response out of ChatGPT is a really excellent way to brainstorm, to come up with a list as really a starting point to begin thinking about the process of economic modeling. The next capability I'd like to jump into is assisting research. And the question I have here is, what are examples of state or city programs to attract remote workers? And this comes out of a recent client question where a state government is looking at various incentives to attract workers from outside of the state to relocate to the state in a remote job, which would then bring in income and labor force to the state. And it seems like a good starting point would be to look at other states or cities that have tried this type of program to incentivize people moving into an area. Just off the top of our head, we knew that there was an example in Vermont, but then we plugged this into ChatGPT, and it actually came up with a number of different examples. This one included a couple of European examples, and we just wanted to focus on the United States. So we regenerated this, and we have 5 programs here: Vermont Remote Worker Grant Program, Tulsa Remote, Northwest Arkansas Council, LifeWorks here, Savannah's Creative Coast, and Hawaii's Movers and Shakas programs. So this could be then a starting point where one would go and look into, okay, what is the Tulsa example? And for this $10,000 grant to eligible workers, how many individuals accepted this grant, and what were the results of that program? That would then provide basic data for per $10,000 incentive, what effect does it have in bringing in workers, and that becomes the basic data that you would then enter into the REMI model. Like suppose you brought in 500 workers for a program, then you'd enter that into the model and calculate and estimate what that effect would have on the local economy. Now I get to these capability number 4, which is Google Sheets plugin. Google Sheets can be integrated with ChatGPT using the OpenAI API. And to do this, we create an API key on the OpenAI website and download the GPT for Sheets plugin on the browser. Okay, then this can be used to analyze data. So step 1, copy the national control forecast from the REMI standard control into Google Sheets. So here's the forecast on the left, copied into Google Sheets. Then with Google Sheets, you enter the formula equals GPT, explain reasons for industry trends in a paragraph summary, and external factors. So we have that right in there for this set of data. And then it prepares a write-up, including external factors such as economic growth, technological advances, and consumer demand. Now, again, we go back to saying that this is a tool. So there's ChatGPT is sort of guessing at the reasons for these industry trends. And it says here, for example, forestry, fishing, and hunting is expected to experience a steady increase in jobs due to the increase in demand for natural resources. So that by and large is correct because we drive the forecast with final demand. And then they bring in at the end other effects such as government regulations and environmental concerns can also influence industry trends and forecasts. So that's sort of expanding beyond what's precisely and explicitly in the REMI model. So it can be very helpful for summarizing and writing up a report, but it may drift away from actually everything that's built into the model. And there are additional features with this Google Sheets plugin. So it has additional formulas such as GPT Ask, which allows users to incorporate additional context. GPT Code generates code to accomplish a task, and List and Tree and others. An example of GPT Ask is a formula for explaining trends in labor productivity. So why is the labor productivity so much higher for forecasts and mining than other industries listed? And labor productivity is higher than other industries, are typically more capital intensive than other industries, more capital investment to produce goods and services. This allows them to produce more output with fewer labor inputs, resulting in higher labor productivity. So that answer is exactly right. If we're looking at output per employee, then since these industries are very capital intensive, the labor productivity is high for those industries. And I wanted just then to go into the REMI model interface, and I'll show Transite. And I wanted to put this AI into the context of the evolution of the REMI interface. So this is a Transite model, which has similar design features to our E3 Plus product and Tax PI and PI Plus. And where we were a few years ago was using tiles to be able to access variables. So you can go and see model blocks. It's a full list of policy variables. Okay, or let's say model linkages. So this is very helpful because it shows the structure of the regional economy with 5 blocks, how different variables interrelate. So if you change one variable, how it affects others. And that's still available within the user interface. Then the next evolution of this is to have more of a search-based approach. So, for example, if you wanted to study the minimum wage, you can look at all of the different factors that might be impacted by the minimum wage, such as labor productivity, compensation rate, and we have scenarios as well. So if we're thinking about the evolution of the user interface, then sort of the next step beyond this search is the AI feature, which will be able to further help identify potential variables and how to modify scenarios. So we're very new on the scene with this, as others. Our development platform for the UI in Delphi has ways to support incorporating AI, and we're still learning about this. We want to be sure that we have development that incorporates the strengths of the AI without some of the limitations, in particular that the AI can be misleading, to say the least, in certain cases. But we see this as a very exciting new development, kind of like working right away with ChatGPT. There can be a lot of improvements to productivity and the quality of analysis if used with thought and adjustment, and we see great potential for this into the future. So at this point, I wanted to leave plenty of time for Q&A. In particular, I wanted to bring Chris and Jeff onto the call, and there may be some potential for live demonstration of this in the context of answering questions. So thank you very much for joining us. And Brian, I'll turn it over to you to moderate the Q&A session.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Like Fred just said, we're about to get into the question portion of the presentation. So if you have any questions about the possibilities that we just talked about, feel free to put them in the question box now, and we can go over them. Also, another quick reminder that shortly after the conclusion of this webinar, we'll be sending out a copy of the slides and a recording from this presentation. You can use it as a resource to help you. And if you have any questions from those resources, we encourage you to reach out to info@remi.com, and I or someone else will reach out to you and give you the support that you need. So great. First, we will get into the first question. What mistake did ChatGPT make with summarizing the raw national forecast? So that's in reference to the first capability that you talked about.
Well, it was Amelia who proofread that. Did you look at that, Chris? Do you know the answer to that?
Yes, I'm happy to comment. And we've applied other testing in various scenarios. We find if you feed in too many indicators at once, and if you add too many years, so we found like a 10-year period through looking at some of the more commonly reported indicators, for example, total employment. In the scenario we use today, we include like private non-farm employment, population, GDP, output, personal income, disposable personal income. So, so about 7 different indicators across a 10-year time horizon, and it did a fine job with reporting that. But if you do ask it to provide like year-over-year averages, you know, comparisons of like a total or average change, it's still important to do some due diligence. And I think one of the helpful things is the GTP still provides, I think, some interesting write-ups that just can be simply time-consuming and thinking about how you want to phrase something. And through using the regenerate results feature, as well as asking it in different ways, it can give you some good considerations for your write-up. And then secondly, if you took it like a step further and you applied something like Jeff did through Google Sheets or Excel, you can copy and paste all of the data either directly into GPT or in Excel, and then you can see the averages and totals as well, and then you can have it do the reporting, and then you can compare the results to make sure everything's lining up.
Great. Excellent. Thank you for the response, Chris. We have another question. Will we be seeing ChatGPT or any other AI integrated features within REMI in future updates?
I think we'll present ideas for integrating this, and maybe some initial sketches of this at this fall's users conference. And at this point, we don't want to commit to any date for release within the models. And I think of particular concern is we don't want to have a release that would cause people to make inadvertent errors in their analysis.
Excellent. Great, thank you. So the next question is, when ChatGPT gives a list of potential factors, example being minimum wage, does it give the sources it used?
You can, I found from other testing, often if you don't say to include sources, it won't. But if you do ask it to include sources, it will. But it wouldn't necessarily be intuitive enough to understand, in its current state as we use it, to understand all the intricacies and equations of the REMI model.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the future with the API integration, that may be a capability. Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry.
And with Google Sheets, with that integration, you can have it. I don't know about listing sources that it uses, but you can have it link up certain sources to use. So if you want to specify, like have it source material from different websites or documents, you can link those up in Google Sheets. So that has more capability than just the ChatGPT website itself.
Right, and I've been looking at it so far, saying, oh, here are these different remote work cases. But then one would need to go the next step. Okay, is there this in Tulsa? Let's go to the data source. Let's find out what's happened. So I take it right now as more ideas or pointing you in the right direction instead of an authoritative source. And I've certainly plugged in information like, okay, who's Fred Trays? What's his educational background? And it kind of like made some guesses, but they were wrong. But it was like, nice guess, but not accurate. So that's still, yeah, for sure. That's something that it's definitely not ready to be used as an authoritative source.
Excellent, thank you. The next question that we have, it's kind of an interesting one. So, have you tried to analyze how AI may affect national or regional growth, employment demand, output, et cetera? For example, what might the impacts of this be in the region like the Bay Area? So instead of talking about like how it can be used for economic modeling, just in general, like productivity increases and things like that.
I think it's one of those new technologies. I'd suggest if there's a lot of venture capital going into there, and it's a very innovative area. The underlying development of AI and the coding is an exploding area, and I would expect that would tend to be clustered in these in the Bay Area. Where there's the whole network of venture capital and collaboration that goes on there. So I would think there'd be like a large growth in that basic research and development and startup companies. Then there's a question of disrupting industries. So, you know, we have this question, are we going to like now replace all sorts of jobs, paralegals or lawyers and accountants and so forth. I'll say, yeah, for sure. I think there should be some productivity increases. I've noticed, but if you take, you know, previous productivity increases such as spreadsheets for accounting, which has vastly increased the capability of filling out tax reforms. But then still the number of accountants has grown quite a bit over the last 20 years, even with the new technology. So I don't think that it will significantly reduce the number of sort of professional services type of jobs. And then you know, I guess whereas something there might be some back office operations, like in finance and banking, that are then replaced. So I think this. I mean, how do I, in like, you know, sort of one phrase, it may be continuing what we see in technological innovation. That innovation tends to take place in some concentrated locations. So the areas that are at the forefront of that innovation will probably see the most benefits from this.
Is, do you see any biases when getting responses from ChatGPT?
I guess I don't know if I can put my finger on anything. I think it would tend to be center left, if you want to put it that way. If there's sort of a political bias.
Excellent. Great, thank you. So another question is, before ChatGPT gave some of the answers, did you feed it REMI documents?
We didn't feed it anything beyond what you saw in the demonstration.
Yep. The next question is, does the free version of ChatGPT have all the capabilities shown off today?
Yes. Oh, or Jeff, I think your thing, you had a credit and you used up 60 cents.
Yeah. So to use the API key, I think there's a wait list for that right now. But to actually generate a key, you have to enter in your credit card information. So it has that on file, and then it lets you create the key. But it gives you $20 worth of free credits, and so over the past couple of weeks, I've used I think about 60 cents worth. So I think it requires a lot of, if you use up all that, you'd be probably looking at a lot of different data. So it's all dependent on how much text you're generating, and then how much data you're looking at. Yeah, so far we haven't spent any money on this. It's just we've just used up about 60 cents worth of that $20 free credit, even though they have you put in your credit card in the beginning.
Excellent.
And the first part, before the integration with Google Sheets, that was all done in the free version.
Yep. And anyone can make an account to do that at any time using your Google account or anything like that. So next, does ChatGPT have the ability to search for detailed census, BLS data, and other data at the state level for certain time periods and present it in table form?
I do not believe it possesses that capability at this time. There might be other AI tools that are available, but I do not believe that's something that ChatGPT can provide.
Yeah, and what I'll say is GPT-4, which is the one that people who are talking about this are talking about, the new release that's coming out, will have internet capabilities, whereas ChatGPT doesn't. So it's possible that a lot of the features that people may, or a lot of the data it might be getting would be more comprehensive with the new release. We're not sure about that, but just a guess. So next, we did get into this a little bit, but I'll ask it again. So I've read that in some cases, ChatGPT has made up information, such as book titles or books which don't exist. What check would you put in place to verify that sort of thing doesn't happen?
What sort of thing?
Just like, what checks would you put in place to verify the information it's telling you is accurate?
I think for now is the best thing would be like judgment. I mean, in the examples that I put down, like let's say the minimum wage is it's ideas, and there was one example where it said, oh, you might increase government spending because people will have higher wages and need less assistance for affordable housing or food assistance, but that would actually reduce government spending. So So and again, if it prints out the information and sort of guesses at the reason, or it lists, okay, here are these programs in Vermont and Tulsa, Oklahoma, is you have to go to the primary source and research the primary source. So let's say it might be, you know, sort of the same standard. If you're reading something in a book about history, as well, you should really go to the primary source information to validate what the initial document was, rather than look at an historian's interpretation without knowing what the original source materials are. So I think right now the best check is one's own judgment and further research about the original source data and information.
Excellent. Thank you. Jeff, this is probably a good one for you. What are the most impactful and effective functions with the Google Sheets integration?
Well, I think with Google Sheets, one of the main benefits is you can copy several tables of data there, like from the REMI model. If you're looking at the forecast or some results, you can copy a lot of data there, and then have the formulas look at multiple tables at once and make draw conclusions from certain trends. Like we looked at labor productivity by industry. It was, so we asked it in one of those slides, we asked in the formula, why are utilities and mining higher than the average industry's labor productivity, and then it drew the conclusion that these industries are maybe more capital intensive, so they have a higher labor productivity than your average industry, where more employees are required for each unit of output. So I think just drawing conclusions like that. There are all sorts of additional other features within, like additional formulas within this plugin for Google Sheets. So things like adding tags to different data labels. So if you have a whole list of different industries, you can have it maybe look at each industry and then assign it more of like a qualitative label. So I think that's another, there are all sorts of additional things that you can do within Google Sheets as compared to just the regular ChatGPT, where you can pretty much just copy and paste a little bit of data and have it look at that. But I think it's it opens up the capabilities in Google Sheets, and it makes the analysis of it a little more clean.
Great, thank you. Another question we got is data formatting a determinant of how accurate ChatGPT potentially is? What format is least prone to creating erroneous responses?
I found from the forecast, for example, if you're looking at results as levels, it did a bit better job of that. If you're copying and pasting differences directly into GTP, you may want to remove the plus signs first, or if you put it into a spreadsheet first, you tend to avoid those issues. But it is capable of just copying and pasting the tables directly from REMI into it, and it can read it.
Great. I'm getting a lot of questions too about the slides and the recording from this webinar. So just another reminder is that shortly after, we will be sending that all in a link to your emails. So, and again, if you have any questions about that once you receive it, just email info@remi.com, and you can find that on our website as well, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I have some questions. I'm not sure if this is anything that you had researched, but one of them is ChatGPT collecting data from you when you use it?
By default, the program in the settings, I believe it's on. I think it may erase it after 30 days for its internal use, but yeah, the questions that you've asked it in the past can help inform it for answering other questions in the future. I think as it stands now, like every month, there's a new variation of it. That can certainly change, but yeah, there is a settings feature that I believe it is enabled to utilize the information that you're feeding into it to inform future responses.
Right, like don't put your social security number in.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a good rule of thumb. Another thing, so this is in reference to the fact that ChatGPT currently only recognizes data that it's found before the year 2021. So it says normally AI learns for a period of time, and the current form of ChatGPT can't return information more recent than 2021. How would this be considered for future forecasts with this lag?
Well, in our case, we were feeding the data into the model, so that I don't think would necessarily matter as much. And then I think we also indicated in about a month's time, right? They're going to start utilizing more live data, so that may no longer apply. But Fred, I'm sorry, did you have a point to that?
Oh yeah, just to reiterate what you were saying is we were just pulling data from our model, like going forward. And anything about like these remote work programs, yeah, there would be a cutoff for that. So it's definitely limiting for that research assistance because a lot's happened since 2021.
Yeah, and that could certainly change in the future as well. Another one that I'm not sure if you looked into, but someone asked, did you try any other AI applications like the Bing AI or the Google AI?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't tried any of those.
Yeah, not for this presentation.
Got it, perfect. So it seems like that's mostly what we had in terms of questions. So thank you everybody for attending. And again, thank you, Fred, for the great presentation. If you have any questions about this presentation, or if you have any questions about REMI, I encourage you to reach out to info@remi.com and we'll connect you with the proper contacts. And this presentation will be emailed to you shortly after the presentation for your reference. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks. Thanks, Brian, Chris, Jeff, and thank you for everybody for attending.
Thank you, everybody.